Thanks for joining the next episode of the Vespa Voice podcast. Today, we are talking about how hidden search problems derail great products. I'm joined by Ravindra Harige, who is the founder of Searchplex. And in this episode, we're going to explore a common but often misdiagnosed issue in modern software, which is search problems hiding in plain sight. So, we're going to unpack why teams miss the mark, how conventional roles may obscure the need for search specific expertise, and what it actually takes to build search that works. So, Ravi, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the call today.
Thanks, Bonnie. I'm really excited to be here on this podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be a great topic. I do want to start by talking a little bit about you before we kick this off, because you have a lot of expertise in this area. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then, a little bit about Searchplex?
Sure. I live in Amsterdam, in Netherlands, and I came here to do masters in AI back in 2011, and since then I have been working in the data, big data, machine learning, and NLP space. And when I started the industry experience, was specifically solving search problems, and that gave me a good foundation on what are the different aspects that goes into building a great search experience. And I just continued working through that. Uh, I realized that I could help many more companies uh, solving search problems, and that was when I founded the Searchplex. We help companies make their search system work better. That could mean building new AI powered search from the ground up or improving what's already there. Our focus is on the parts of search that matters the most: how information is stored, retrieved, and ranked, so people can actually find what they need. We are a small team of specialists. Each of us have spent years working on search problems, data pipelines, and AI tools. We don't do generic consulting, quite specific on the search focus, search and recommendations. And yeah, we have solved problems across different domains and company sizes at Searchplex.
I mean, this has always been, I feel like, a critical topic, search. And even now we're seeing search really becoming the core for a lot of not just digital interactions, but when you're thinking about the AI applications and things like that. But I think some of the ways that people are interacting with different tools and pages, it may be easy to forget that there's a search core behind it. So, what are some of the common symptoms that you would see of maybe hidden search problems that teams might overlook?
So, what we see often is there are companies who have started from a business, solving a business problem point of view, and that is how they make money, obviously. The key thing is they have identified, let's say, e commerce, they have a certain niche. Or they are retailers. Their goal is to sell. In that pursuit, they put together the technologies that is needed, the teams that can help build it or offload it to some other vendor. But really, when the actual customers or the buyers, when they're interacting with the search engine, they are the one who is experiencing how this technology is shaping their experience of that business, of that brand, of that store. And it can, depending on the implementation, it can have either delightful experience or it can be frustrating experience. And a lot of times these experiences do not get communicated, but it is shown in terms of customer churn or not enough people returning to these engines or these search tools, and so on. And that is the time the businesses start looking like, what's going on, why the users are dropping, the usage is dropping, why the sales are not happening as it should. And in that process, they will probably figure out like, oh, there's a lot of users who are not finding what they want. It could be they search something and they have zero results. Or if they look at a search behavior, they will see that the users are repeatedly having different formulation to get their search query right. Or it is possible that they're typing something, they get a suggestion, and then that particular suggested item is not actually in the stock. So There are these different layers where the issues can be. It could be in the content layer at the index, at the indexing point. Maybe they don't have the data, or it could be in the ranking that they have the data, they get the document, but it's buried on the fifth page of the result. Or it could be that they just don't have a feedback system where like they can continuously proactively look into these issues. So there are, yeah, as with any search system, there are different parts where things can go wrong, and it's not easy to figure out where the issues can be. And that's the hidden problem starts surfacing when somebody takes the ownership to, okay, we need to go at the root cause of what these issues are, and then they start figuring out things.
You described it so many different layers. I mean, from the content to the UI, UX, that experience. And then even within the search itself, there's multiple layers there, from retrieval and ranking and, personalization and all of that, which is a search issue as well. What have you seen with customers where they had challenges that turned out to be a search issue?
Yeah, so as part of consulting, we have a lot of conversation with customers, and they happen to be in different situations. They either have in-house teams where they know a lot about search problems, or there are teams who have a hunch that this could be a search problems, or there are teams where the company just have no idea that this could be a search problem. So all these three types of customers we see. Some examples to give is there's a lot of applications you can think in terms of, let's say, chatbot. Now chatbot comes with a specific expectation that you ask a question, it should give an answer, but what is the right answer, and why is it doing more than what it should be doing, like over promising or saying something it should not be saying, or just giving not factual answers. These are all different things which the users or the customers will see like, this is not working well, but there is a underlying search problem behind that situation. And if another customer we had which was in tax systems, so in tax you can have in at least in Netherlands, you can file up to 5 years back your taxes. So that means that this company had to maintain 5 years versions of tax information, and the system. So there's so much similarity between each year's tax codes that whatever this customers were searching, they were getting older results, which was not for the current year. So these things on the surface will look like search is working because user is typing something and they are getting results in written, but then is it really the relevant result, is it really the relevant answer? That's where starts the question starts, that okay, maybe that's where the search is the problem.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like you're getting a response, but may not be the most accurate, the most like the freshest response or relevant. Okay, so when we think about the teams behind, what it takes to build this type of system, what does that look like? Because there's so many different parts, right? Is search being seen as a distinct engineering domain? And how do those traditional roles fit when these companies are encountering a problem, they're looking to fix it? Like whose responsibility is that? Who's working on that? And what does that look like?
Yeah, so this is again tied to the company or business leadership on how they see these problems. The companies or businesses having a distinct engineering expertise in search, they are there, and these companies, they happen to be the ones where all their revenue, all their businesses is really tied to the search. You can think of like, yeah, e-commerce or marketplace. Search is one of the key entry points for that business. So those companies tend to have a relatively higher maturity in recognizing what the search team should be, who are the right people to staff it with, and so on. There are businesses where search is not the main entry point, but it is important. It is contributing to the overall product success and the product experience. They are the ones who don't have much visibility on search is also a domain. It has its own expertise that is needed within the team, and so on. So it really depends on the how aware the leadership and how important search is for their business.
Okay, so how does that relate to those traditional engineering team roles? And how does that, I feel like that could make it harder to identify search problems with the different people in the mix.
Yeah. So search is a very interesting work. It is quite multidisciplinary because as we discussed, it is interfacing with users experience directly, so there is a UX element to it. If you start from there, if you think of query suggestions, that's also user experience, and how are you showing the results, and so on. So there's a UX part to it. Then there is a technical part to it, depending on what technology stack they're using, if they're on Elastic or if they're on Apache Solar or Vespa, for instance. These engines, they come with their own operational characteristics that the engineers needs to be aware of. They behave differently depending on different parameters, like yeah, at what scale, how many queries are happening, is indexing happening at the same time or not. So there are different operational characteristics that you will only learn as things go along and as you start monitoring and you start understanding that engine. So there is this engine specific expertise that's important. Then there is a part about, if you think from the data perspective, there is a whole part about data fabrication. It's very common that companies often have multiple data vendors or data sources, so that data needs to be combined in a uniform, in a clean manner that is ready to be consumed for search use cases. It could mean cleaning of the data, transformation of the data, joining of the data, and so on and so forth. That's the whole data engineering aspect to it. And then once you have the data ready, you need to have a good understanding of the data modeling part, which actually data modeling and data engineering goes hand in hand. So you need to know what kind of queries to be supported, because that will define how you want to shape your a data schema, a search schema, and based on that, you have to do the data engineering bits and pieces. So that is only the part until you have end-to-end system working. But then there is a whole other work about how do you calculate relevancy, how do you do the evaluation of the search, how do you do the testing of search, how do you come up with the right metrics. And when we talk about the right metrics, you need to have a product instinct as well. So working with product managers who have a good view of KPIs, business facing KPIs, along with what could be the interesting technical KPIs. So those things have to be taken into consideration as well. So overall, this is, as you see, like I already listed 4 5 different disciplines that has to come together, and this is not quite obvious for many companies where the search is being worked on. In one of my own prior experiences, that there's a company with the whole business is based on search. It's an international 24/7 updating queries all happening from all across the world, that kind of product. But then they had only one backend engineer working on search just for half of his time. So that was the type of allocation was given to the search, when the search itself is
It's
the
like
core
the core.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is important, that this educate this awareness that these are different roles that are needed, and a squad has to be formed for improving search or developing search is very important. But again, it ties back to, is that the core of your business? Then like, yeah, things can be arranged differently, but this awareness we see lacking in different businesses.
So when we think about who owns search within an organization, I feel like because of the multiple teams, that can sometimes be unclear. So who do you think should own search within an organization?
I think there has to be at least two key parties leading this initiative. Is a search expert who understands these different stacks, different layers that have to come together, and one being another being a product person. So product insights, because in a given search system there are so many things you can work on, but it's very important to tie to business objectives and what moves the needle, because all businesses are constrained by time and resources and so on. So having that view of what is really important for customers and then how to deliver that technically superior is through the search expert. So those two roles have to at least be working together, and then along the way they can pull in other experts for different parts as needed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, as we talk about search, I mean, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot over the last few years is really this emphasis on AI. And I mean, I think that also adds another layer of maybe teams or expertise. How do you see AI layering into search from a team perspective?
Yeah. So I think AI in general was always part of mature search teams. It just came in different phrasing. So it used to be called data science or search science, or there are different ways of calling. But essentially, how do you use machine learning to improve your data quality, which in turn feeds into the search system? How do you come up with different signals or calculated signals that will improve your algorithm of the relevance calculation? How do you come up with machine learning models that would do ranking or re-ranking for your specific business cases? That is another thing. Search evaluation is also, you can think of a sort of a scientific temperament to build the correct experiments and so on. So for me, that is a traditional AI. So it was always part of it. But what we are seeing since last couple of years is there was a quite big influx of funding into vector databases, and of course, OpenAI became far more known for their capabilities. And what used to take a team of like PhDs and some experts of 5-10 people to deliver certain sophisticated solution could be done much easily because of OpenAI embeddings and vector databases and things around that ecosystem. So you have probably seen this uh, term that is seen in the market a lot: AI engineers, AI engineering. And these people who are working on these problems, they are approaching development from AI first tooling perspective. That could mean really using of vector databases, OpenAI APIs, Gemini APIs, how to basically glue things together to stand up a system that is AI first. So for me, that is the new way of developing solutions. But what we see is there is a lot of material online to build a proof of concepts or example solutions. And that makes it easy to come to version 1. But then the moment you are moving from version 1 to something that is in production, needs to be put in production, you start seeing the cracks emerging. And these cracks, they often happen to be in the search layer. And the AI engineers, they are discovering that oh, wait a second, before we move things or prepare a context for AI models, you need to have a good retrieval to build that context. And building that context is the actual game. And retrieval is where is what actually plays a key role there. So they are discovering that AI is really dependent on how strong and well designed the retrieval is. Retrieval is not a new field; it's been there for ages now. So this new group of engineering talent is discovering information retrieval, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So I see that like two communities are sort of coming together, like AI developers discovering information retrieval, and
Mhm.
retrieval is powering the modern AI. That's how I see things.
Yeah, and I like the way that you worded that because a lot of times we see AI powered X, AI powered Y, but when you think about these AI applications, they're powered by search basically. And I thought it was interesting kind of talking through those challenges with going from POC to production because even, I could see like a goal to, incorporate certain AI models that maybe came out and they're supposed to be really good. But if the search portion isn't working, then you're really not going to get the full advantage of those AI models. And then when you kind of look into the retrieval aspect of it, sure, maybe it can get information, but is it able to get information quickly, accurately? Is it able to, like, because when you're stitching things together, I think one of the big challenges that we see at Vespa is, there's always an impact on performance, especially when you're stitching things together.
Definitely. I think there are multiple layers to get it right. There's a performance, how quickly you can do things, how high quality can you get things done, because like retrieval is also not one shot. You can have a keyword search, you can have vector search, you can have hybrid search. How do you evaluate that? How do you get the really right top most relevant items? That's the traditional search which we all have been working. So that expertise definitely is at the core in this age now, as we build for the future AI solution.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we talked about kind of team structure. I mean, what skills or perspectives are required to solve these search problems that typical engineering teams might not have?
I think so. Perspective is really trying to have good visibility into different layers, right? So we talked about at least three layers. So one is whether do you have the right content? And then if you have the right content, why is it not matching? So that's the match part. And if it is matching, why is it not coming in the top five? So at least if you take those three aspects as a foundation, then you have already a lot to learn and iterate on improving things.
Hmm.
And that goes back to how good your observation systems are set up. How do you trace things? How complete is your tracing from the moment search query enters to the result is shown? Because if you have done all tracing correctly, plugged it correctly, then you should be seeing what happened at each different layer,
Mm.
and then accordingly you can improve things.
Okay. Now, how does improving retrieval relevance differ from just improving performance or UX?
That's a great question. So UX, so these three things have to go hand in hand to have a really superior search product or solution. So the UX part is actually, are you really making it easy to put the query in? Are you showing the right suggestions in the easy to click way? What about the filters? How important they are? And now there is a whole thing about RAG where you have to show a generated answer, but then you also have to match it with the citations of like whether it's grounded in factual answers, and then also need to show where those matching documents are. It could be matching document, it could be matched sections, or it could be specific chunks where the actual matches have happened. So there's a lot of UI UX part that has to be done well. And the system performance plays a role when the user is expecting an answer, immediate answer, and that somehow the expectation has been managed because of open AI, chat gpt, because you type a question and then you see things are like being typed. So these things do take time, but it's sort of normalized now that it's okay to take time, but not too much. So you still need to have the whole pipeline working end to end in a performant manner. So that's the performance part where the engineering and the engine specific aspects or understanding and expertise comes into the play. The third most important part is the quality of the retrieval itself. That's the evaluation of search system. It is not one off work, it is an iterative work. You need to have good systems to build your evaluation data sets, query sets, running regression tests, identifying which layer the issues are, and benchmarking your baseline quality metrics like NDCG, for instance. And once you have baselined it, are your improvements are actually reflecting in those metrics? So that's a whole process, evaluation driven search improvement that has to be there. So all these three things when are in motion, and it's never one off work that it will be done. So it has to be a team that works towards improving things. So, but definitely, if a structured approach is adopted, you will see over time that the solution has become quite far more superior than what it used to be 6 months before, for instance.
And it seems like we talked about challenges in just identifying a search problem and all the different teams involved in that. But once a team realizes that they do have a search problem, like they've come to that conclusion, where should they start?
Yeah, I think this ties back to the three layers that we discussed. It's really important to first of all identify what the problem is, and then start tracing that problem, like which all different layers that specific query or categories of queries that are problematic are going through. And that should reveal, like, maybe it's the content which is not in the right format, or maybe it's the NLP processing on that content that did not happen. Maybe stemming was not correctly done, or maybe language specific processing was not done correctly, or maybe there was just a missing information. And then how do you match for that? So there's a content part, but then, yeah, after the content, how do you get it in the top 10, top 5? So there's a structured approach depending on where, which layer the problem is happening.
Okay. Now, obviously, I think when it comes to search teams, it's a lot easier to kind of recognize their value in improving the search experience. But, what if leadership just sees it as a front end issue? How do you advocate for bringing in search expertise?
That's a battle, definitely, where search is less understood. And sometimes it's difficult to reason that search is important and critical until they start seeing issues that, hey, we thought it was a front end issue. We allocated front end resources to that. We spent time and effort in that, but it's not yielding the result. So sometimes they have to go through the grind of trying different things to realize that no, the expertise we have, the talent we have, engineers we have, is somewhere it's not able to figure out or solve specific problems. And that kicks off a search from their end to look for who can help them. They might not know that there's something called search engineering and search expert, but they would try to look in different ways how and who can help on this. My experience has been to not go into the overdrive of educating if there is no willingness to understand that this could be a search problem, but let them go through this process. Sometimes there are very open leaders who want to understand what are the different possibilities, and that is much easier to work with and then explain, like, hey, maybe your search is not working well as you think, it's not UX problem. And then they are very open to, like, why do you say so, and so on. So that kicks off a really good technical discussion, and a very scoped small engagement that leads to like aha moments, like, oh, you're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just from this conversation, I think for me, it's really highlighted just how complex getting search right can be. This has been something that companies have been trying to solve for a long time, for years, is solving the search problem. But I think rather than thinking about it like, oh, you just do a fix and then it's a one and done, or you just get this tool and then search is fixed. I mean, it's really a lot more complex than that. There's multiple layers involved in it, multiple teams involved, and it's something that needs continuous monitoring and improvement. And yeah, it's not just a set it and forget it kind of thing. When we think about these teams and kind of leveling up their search capabilities, are there any tools or frameworks or approaches that make it easier to do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And what I can share is there is no one thing that fits all kind of solution or approach. There are some books, for instance, that really goes into the basics of what is search and how it should be done from a practitioner perspective, and that can set the foundation of, like, okay, the search is more involved. Then there are certain training programs that different vendors provide to upskill on search understanding. It could also be that sometimes you can, for example, engage with a partner like Searchplex and then do a small project where the engineering team is closely involved, and then they see the tools, the process that we adopt to come to certain conclusions and how we go about making improvements, and that sets in motion the processes and the standards within the team for them to be self-sufficient afterwards. So there are different ways to go about it, but yeah, there's no one tool or one framework that would I can just recommend.
We talked about this challenge that we're seeing with organizations. Maybe they're not noticing that it's a search problem because there's so many layers and so many teams involved. It can be hard to identify that. But I think, the takeaway for me is these teams need to be working together and there needs to be some search expertise involved because, again, search isn't just a one size fits all kind of set it and forget it tool. It's really kind of the foundation for a lot of these AI applications, these search interactions, from shopping to chatbots to generative answering. Is there anything else, before we wrap, that you would want to highlight when it comes to making sure we're not, missing the mark with search and kind of overlooking a bigger issue there?
Yeah, I think the really one thing I want to emphasize is there's a lot of activity and funding going into building AI solutions. As you said, as AI powered. Say anything, even toothbrush is AI powered these days. But it's important that not so there is a phase until you get to a proof of concept, but then there should be a view that there is a whole field of retrieval, information retrieval, that is going to power the sophistication and differentiation for their product or solution or service offering. And without that specific focus on retrieval, you are just as good as any other new company. And the to build the moat or differentiation is going to be much more difficult. So it's I'm really excited for this phase of the technology curve we are in, because it's bringing back the focus to search.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that, I guess we will go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank you again, Ravi, for joining us. This was a really great and enlightening conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had great time as well. Thank you for having me.